the phone in association with Leeds Spirits. I'm Matty, and we're going to get stuck right into a busy evening tonight. So we're going to be talking probably about Hibs beating Aberdeen on Saturday. A really comfortable 2-0 win against a really shitey Aberdeen team. We might talk about the player of the year that's coming up. There's been some noise on Twitter about that. We'll get some insight on how the Hibs Buzz event went last night from Ian, who was there. We'll discuss the transfer window if we've got time, and also look ahead to tomorrow night's clash in the Scottish Cup against Ayr. Jack, I'm going to come to you first of all, mate. You're first up. So Hibs 2, Aberdeen 0. What did you make of the game?
It was a good game because obviously I was at the game with my dad's neighbour because my dad was out. But yeah, it was a good game. I enjoyed how Hibs show their energy, but there was a few pure levels as well.
I hope your dad's all right, Jack. Sorry to hear that he's not well. So what uh,
Yeah.
what what stood out about Hibs' energy for you?
Well, I just liked how apart from the Triantes goal, the defence looked pretty solid as well.
We kind of like Aberdeen had quite a lot of the ball, but they
Yeah,
didn't
that was
really
a
do very much with
disappointment,
it.
but no, didn't do much about it, which was a good sign for our perspective.
And what did you think of the lineup that went with?
Yeah, it was a good lineup. I like how we had Gale and Boyle up front
hmm
and stuck with the same back line in midfield.
What do you make of the difference between the two seasons that the teams are having? Now, Aberdeen started off, as we know, superbly. They kind of went storming up to the top of the league alongside Celtic for months, and
Yeah,
then they just stopped that, which was nice. Uh, we kind of didn't do that. We sort of sat about the bottom of the league for a wee while, and then we stopped doing that, which was also nice. And
yeah.
we've had this sort of steady improvement since. What have you made of that? When you look at the two teams, do you think there's one that's notably better than the other?
I'd say, I mean, Aberdeen, yeah, they did have a good season, but you've got to look at that and say, they've not won a game since November, so you just can't go on a pure run for that long. I'm surprised that's happened to Aberdeen so quick, and then Hibs have just bounced into a good winning form. 10 games unbeaten, I'm pretty happy with that.
It's good to get the 10 games unbeaten. It took us into fifth place, Jack. Where do you see us finishing up in the season?
Fourth,
Fourth. Who's going to be
yeah.
above us and who's going to be below us?
I want to say Aberdeen that you'd be above us, possibly, or maybe Dundee United.
hmm what have you made of Dundee United so far this season, Jack? You seen much of
They
them?
look, not really seen much of them, but I know that they're having a good season so far, like hanging on to third place
hmm
in the meantime.
Uh, Janice got the man of the match by the match sponsors on Saturday, Jack. How are you finding Janice's performances at the moment?
I quite like him. I like what he's offering as a player, and if David Gray was to get the chance, I'd probably offer him a contract because he's doing a really good performance at the moment. Like he's picked up 4 man of the matches now, I think.
He's definitely that sort of mainstay in the midfield now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Are you surprised at how Janice has come on, or did you expect that when we signed him?
No, I expected it when we signed him, but playing in a position he's not actually played in and then doing really well. I think he plays better as a midfield type of role than he does in a defence.
And that's him adding goals now to his game as well,
Yeah,
Jack. It's a few that he's got.
uh,
It's just good to see, isn't it?
yeah, it's really good actually. It's good to have a player like Triantes, yeah.
And what did you make of the second goal we scored? It's a cross in for Chris Cadden, and Nicky Cadden gets on the end of it.
Aye, that was a good goal. Yeah, I mean it's good to see the brothers linking up as well and
Were,
working really well together. Aye.
were you confident the goal was going to get given when it went to VAR, or were
I
you a
know I
bit
was
worried?
confident because I seen it and I wouldn't even say it needed to go to VAR for the offside rule.
Fair enough. And then we had another wee scare with the VAR late on with the penalty shout for Aberdeen. With
Aye.
Rocky potential handball. Did you think that should have been a penalty, or to
No,
get the
not
right?
for me. No, I think this Aberdeen, just the ref probably try to help them out a bit.
Aye, the VAR seemed determined to be centre stage on Saturday. I was getting quite frustrated with it. Although
Yeah.
I think all the decisions ended up right, which is
hmm
a good thing. And obviously, VAR sorted out our second goal because the linesman had
Yeah.
been flagged for that. And in the old days, that would have been just straight disallowed. So
Yeah.
kind of
And
thankful
then
for VAR there.
they were checking a possible red card as well, but I was just like, how bad can it get?
Nonsense. Um, Okay, Jack, I'll leave you there and I'll come back to you in a wee bit. Callum, what did you make it on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought we were really comfortable, first and second half. I think it's quite deliberate from us that we kind of sit in this, I hate calling it a low block, but I mean, that's ultimately what it was. But we looked very comfortable. They didn't really threaten at all. I think during the first half, we did seem a bit sluggish, and they seemed to target us on the right hand side. Even the boy Clarkson was kind of coming out to the left, and they got past Cadden a few times. But once we got the first goal, we're really so shouting at the top of me here. But we're really comfortable. And then in the second half, I think Levitt and Triantis again kind of when we had the ball, would kind of control, but we seem to allow them to have a lot of the ball, which we've done. I think I mentioned it after the first derby of the season, where we seem to be quite happy to let teams have more of the ball, and we're more effective when we have it. The only thing was that maybe like the last kind of 10-15 minutes, we had every man like, sort of in our own box, and we were winning the ball, and it was going up the park, and there was nobody to hold it, even though Bowie was on. And I think we've done that before. And I think a few people have mentioned it on here that for corners and stuff, it's 11 players in the box. But I think I kind of suggested it last week that if we get the first goal, go on, get a second or a third, and then it's game over. And that's the way it turned out to be.
There was somebody mentioned that there was like shades of the Jack Ross season where we finished third with this type of performance where we managed to get ourselves in front and then just see the game out, which was sort of like a characteristic of that side. But it's got to be a good sign, you would think, Callum, that we're sort of mirroring that sort of trait of a team that finished third.
Aye, again, it's having this control over games. We've not seen it very often, particularly in the last kind of 20 minutes of games. And I know a lot of people are saying it's boring football and all the rest of it, but you take that right now, to keep on going the run that we are. One thing I did notice is we play Campbell in this 10, but he almost plays. This is going to sound so moronic, but he almost plays as like a defensive midfielder as a 10. He plays in that 10 role to break things up, to chase things down.
Mm-hmm.
But what he is good at is he's very effective in the opposition box. He showed that he won the first header at Ross County before the goal, and then obviously he's got a direct assist there on Saturday. So as much as Trantis and Levitt like to sit quite deep, and there's not a lot of movement in the middle of the park, it's just working for us at the moment. And I kind of hoped that Bowie would have got a start on Saturday, but he kept it the same, and I think it showed on the bigger park that Boyle and Gale maybe can play up front together when they've got more grass to kind of run into, and the two wingers to kind of run beyond. But yeah, I'll take that controlled football every day of the week, definitely.
How do you think that sets us up? So it's the highest league position we've held all season. Now we're not sort of just scraped into the top six. We're now fifth. Do you see us sort of continuing in the top six, or is there a risk of us dropping out?
It's so tight, so there is a risk there. Looking at the next league game, St Mirren are a team that are, and I don't mean this in a kind of derogatory way, but they're kick and rush. If they didn't win the first ball, they try and win the second ball. Aberdeen on Saturday wanted to play football. It was all about keeping the ball. Know that they're doing a lot with it. Whereas St Mirren, they've embarrassed us in recent games the way they've started so quick against us. And if we're going to go out and kind of give up some of the ball and play the way we've been playing, I think it'll be a far more difficult game. So potentially, if you drop points there, and I think Hearts are maybe above us in the form table now and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just so tight. The result Kilmarnock got against Dundee United, so the risk is there. But I think we really need to. I think if we come away from St Mirren with a draw and then kind of win the home games, then we've got a real good chance at fourth, potentially third, because I can't see Dundee United maintaining the run that they're on. They've had a couple of stinking results in between the good results that they've had.
You make a good point about the St Mirren one. I think that the difference for us going into a game against St Mirren now is St Mirren outworked us. I thought the last two times that we played them, but I think we've got a team that works really hard now, and I think that's our opportunity to maybe get a wee bit of revenge on them. Because I think if we match them for effort, we're a better team than them. What do you think about that, Callum? You think that's
aye?
sensible?
I think that's a fair observation. Aye, because that was my opinion of the St Johnstone game that we won 2-0 at Easter Road. It was a horrible game. You could even look at the Ross County game and say, do you know what, stinking game, but it was the individual quality of players that kind of got us through. We've done no bad through there. I think even last season we were winning 2-1 with a few minutes to go. I can't remember if that was after the game when they beat us 3-0 was it 3-0 in the first half last season. But through there we kind of do all right. But yeah, I think the confidence in the players is definitely shown. And as I say, if you look through the stats, we don't dominate the ball by any manner of means. But what we are doing is creating kind of more clear-cut opportunities.
It's good to see. Thanks, Callum. I'm going to bring in Ian next. Ian, what are your thoughts on Saturday?
It was quite interesting that Callum was talking about Josh Campbell there, because Josh was obviously a man marking Shinnie right from the start, and vice versa for long periods before Aberdeen went 4 up front and Shinnie started going up the left in the second half. But they were clearly man marking each other, and so Josh basically nullified Shinnie as a playmaker. And but it was great. That, as Callum said, there is, he wins balls in the air. Both Josh wins balls in the air, both in attack and defence. But that back post header was clearly planned. I wanted to just say something about Levitt because Joe's on now, and I want to take away what Joe was going to say about Levitt, but as his biggest fan. But it's clear that David Gray had Levitt going to pick up the ball from the back three, and that's something we didn't do at Ross County. And this allowed us to play through Aberdeen much more easily. And I saw some very good play from Levitt that I've yet to see from other Hibs players. It's clear that Triantis was actually listening to Levitt. I watched the game again on Hibs TV, the full game, and it's clear that Triantis was doing what Levitt said. Levitt was saying, "Go and stand there," and he went there. This is just in terms of coming out from the back, but in terms of receiving and passing, which is when you're teaching young players, you always teach them about 3 looks, about having 3 looks before you receive it, once you receive it, and follow the ball away. But Dylan Levitt appears to be the best example I've seen for any young player. He's constantly scanning the field, and that allows him to make earlier, faster, and more successful decisions, and decision making is really important there. So a couple of examples, and I took if people are interested, in 22 minutes, I just wrote down the times. In 22 minutes, Levitt calls for the ball, and he's already made 4 looks in the direction of Chris Cadden to play a quick diagonal. So Aberdeen were focused on nullifying our wing backs, and the quick diagonal was the only way to bring them into play, and that's what Levitt does after 4 looks, long before he received the ball. And then just 4 minutes later, 26 minutes, and after Nicky Cadden loses the ball and Aberdeen start to come forward, Levitt then relieves the pressure on Rocky, who's receiving the ball, and Levitt calls for the ball from Rocky with his hand out. He actually puts his hand out, and Rocky passes the ball pretty well through a group of players. But Levitt's already looked to see twice to the left wing, and he plays one touch because of that. That allows him to play one touch because he's already had 2 looks for who's on the left. And just again, in 29 minutes, there's another diagonal to Chris Cadden, and it's clear that he's going to go with the diagonal before he even receives the ball. And finally, 15 seconds after that, Levitt plays long over the heads of the Aberdeen defence to Boyle. I think you probably remember that, from the edge of our box, after receiving the pass out from Jack Iredale. And Levitt actually makes it easy for Jack Iredale, because Levitt already knows he's not marked, because he looks before he receives the ball. And so it's tremendous. I mean, clearly it must be planned that Boyle is always running whenever we receive the ball out of the fence, but Levitt was obviously planned to do that. And the best one was at 41 minutes. Levitt deliberately starts a move by calling for a pass, and Josh Campbell sees it too late, but he then applauds Levitt, who's seen the potential opening. And I was talking to my son Callum, whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday, Callum!
Happy birthday, Callum!
Yeah, and he's a current coach, so he is a coach at the moment, and he said that what Levitt does is similar to what De Bruyne and Phil Foden do, is they actually look to start a move themselves. Then they go and receive the ball to start that move. And I thought that was fascinating, just watching Levitt again. But we looked a bit shaky at the start. It could have gone either way at the start if they'd actually scored. But as Callum said and Jack said, it was pretty comfortable.
What do you make of this? The midfield two. This you've highlighted Levitt there. He's sort of complimented by Chantis just now. That pairing seems to be working okay for us. Do you think Joe Newell comes straight back into the team, or has he got a job in his hands now to shift one of them?
I think he has a job. I spoke briefly to Scott Allen last night at the Hibs Buzz thing, and they didn't take my question, which was actually the question was to Scott Allen. How do you incorporate people of the likes of Scott Allen and Levitt? Do you actually build a team around them based on their creativity, or do you try and fit them in somewhere? I think as long as Levitt's control of the game, like he did against Aberdeen, then he's got the jersey. So I think Joe will struggle to get back in.
In terms of the two teams, we heard from David Gray after the game, and I think he made the point that back in November, in injury time, when it went 3-2 to Aberdeen, the live table had Aberdeen 29 points ahead of us. We finished the game on Saturday with them 2 points ahead of us. On your observations, Ian, obviously I think you've been to all three of the games between Hibs and Aberdeen this season.
Yeah.
Do they deserve to be in front of us, or is it right that we're on their coattails now, almost poised to overtake them?
You asked the question of Jack earlier, and I think it all comes down to confidence, and that came out in that David Gray interview on YouTube. I think it's with the Sun guy. I think he said afterwards, when Rangers hit the post at the end of the match, and could easily have turned the game around, and obviously the Aberdeen one turned it around. I think it's all about confidence. I don't understand, because I've never played football to any level, but in rugby, what I played, I mean, we never gave up. We never gave up. And it just seems like football players, can you imagine if that was like that in business? If you had a bit of a setback and then you went on a 13-game run, I don't know, you went in and just failed non-stop. But it was quite funny last night on the Hibs Buzz, because that actually came up last night. And Dwight Gale said, for instance, we changed the music before the game. It's now Rocky's music. And we've got to put up with that all the time because they didn't want to change it now. It was interesting. Liam Craig said that Dwight and Junior Hoylett both spoke up about the standards after the Aberdeen game and the standards that were expected of people. That was really interesting hearing them saying that. But interestingly, Liam Craig said Rocky's goal in that Aberdeen game kept me in a job. And then they said Pedro the Kitman made the decision to drop the green shorts, and I said Matty will be pleased about that, because how did since is it Colin that was always going on about the green shorts?
I can't remember. Yeah,
but it was clear that throughout the Hibs Buzz last night and all the interviews we've seen, that everyone was simply going on the basis that things would turn, that we'd get better, we would get luckier. But Aberdeen have obviously, the individual players have lost confidence, and all the Hibs players have just got so much confidence now in their own ability.
The point there about the players speaking out about the standards, I don't know if you've ever had the chance to see the open goal versus Hibs darts thing that's on YouTube. So you've got Paul Slaney and Kevin Kyle are at HTC, and they're having darts matchups against the players. But one of the wee nuggets that came out of that is they asked where the Christmas night out was, and they said we didn't have it. Joe Newell took the decision. It wasn't appropriate for them to have a Christmas night out. Like, we weren't playing well enough to deserve it. And Joe Newell gets a lot of kind of criticism for, a lot of people don't think he's not captain material, and it's always something I've sort of struggled with. I always think Joe Newell is like a sort of a captain figure. But when you hear about players, senior players talking about the standards, and then the captain saying we don't deserve to have a Christmas night out, does that give you some reassurance that we've got the right sort of character in the dressing room?
Very much, and that came up again and again last night at the Hibs Buzz event. Dwight Gale came out and said, I've got enormous respect for David Gray's man management skills. And Dwight Gale was asked specifically, who's the biggest influence on him? Sorry, who's the biggest character? Not necessarily the biggest influence, but somebody that's made him think differently. And he came out and said, even though I didn't play very long under him, Eddie Howe. And so, but Dwight came out and said how much respect he has for David Gray's man management.
Excellent. It's good to hear that. Thanks, Ian. I'm going to bring other John in. Oh, John, what were your thoughts from Saturday? What were your main takeaways from it?
One, I must I shied off, so I've seen the highlights. So apologies. It wasn't a safe room though, so it was okay.
Sorry.
I mean, listen to Ian there. One of the things I had picked up from the highlights that Hibs put out was an absolute pinger of a pass from Levitt, just inside his own half, right onto Cadden, going down the right hand side. I mean, not really seen anything like that since Hanlon was doing it. But I think we've talked about confidence. First game we went into against Aberdeen, we'd just been beaten into the ground by Dundee, the team that have just lost 12 goals in 2 matches. I mean, I at that point, if I'm honest, I thought the players had gone.
Mm-hmm.
I
Agreed.
mean, I didn't want David Gray to go, but having seen that result and seen how it gone at the end, I thought I thought the season was gone because I thought the players' heads were away, and that the only way that they would be able to change it is in changing the management team to put a new voice in the room. So credit has to go to the players for finding something inside themselves. The run since then hasn't been perfect. We haven't been blindingly brilliant in every game that we've played. But there's a solidity that's come in there. The accidental formation, no. We played a 3-5-2 at the beginning of the season, so it's been something that's there. And we've taken 7 points off an Aberdeen side that we're going to challenge championship when we played them in the first game. I mean, and it just shows, sort of in my head, the small margins that exist in terms of players. I mean, it's just a tightness. I mean, players, I mean, all you have to do is watch any team at Easter Road during the warm-up. I mean, I couldn't ping a ball 30 yards to somebody and hit them. We've got players who then flick it with the back of their heel. I mean, to another guy who's 30 yards away. With the amount of skill that every one of these players for every team that turn up at Easter Road have in terms of being able to play the game, but put them in a pressure situation, put the challenge with too many things going on round about them, a bit of tightness in the muscle, but a lack of concentration, and that's what happens. Delighted with the 2 goals, but I'd have been gutted if we'd given away those 2 goals. I mean, Cadden's cross is a lovely cross from exactly the wrong place. I mean, you don't tell your wingers to cross from 25 yards out. I mean, there's 3 big centre backs in there, and it gets through to the back post and we score. I mean, the fact that Dwight Gale, between 2 big centre backs, nearly gets his head on it. Again, great, a good corner routine, combination of Rocky interfering with the goalie but not fouling. I mean, he seems to have perfected that. And again, you think that that's going to be something in the background where you've got coaching teams who are speaking to referees to understand what's a foul, what's not a foul, because his arms are never up. He's just standing there as a bit of a rock right in the way. The goalie gets too interested in trying to muck around and getting Rocky out the way. Campbell, who's really good in the air, wins a good ball at the back post, and Aberdeen are sleeping because if Triantis misses it, Gale's whacking it in because he's right beside him. I mean, so there's so many things that we're doing to make the best of a situation. But again, I would go back to congratulations to the players because they've found something that they didn't have up at Dens.
And there's a level of performance now, John, that like I never felt that we were in any danger of losing that game on Saturday. I thought we gave Aberdeen lots of the ball, but they didn't really trouble us. I never thought we looked like losing to Ross County. I never thought we looked like losing to St Johnstone the week before that. Like we have sort of hit a level now where we look quite comfortable in games. What do you put that down to?
Well, if you go back to Tannadice, I think we had that before Joe Newell got sent off. I mean, we lost the silly first goal. I mean, we're letting a runner through on Miller who wasn't quite right, having come back for international. We changed it up the second half and we were easily 2-1 ahead. In complete control of the game. Dwight Gale was on. We were moving things about. Hoylett was causing problems up top. and we were in absolute control of that game. I mean, stupid mistake, red card, people tighten up, there's a bit of edge, there's a bit of panic. 5 minutes were fine, through ball to Campbell, who can't quite decide whether to run to the corner or go through on goals, loses it, and the ball comes back up on the pitch and they equalise. I mean, those small margins, but we had it at that time. It's just been that idea where the players have almost had to bounce off the bottom with the stuff at Dens. I mean, seeing all the crap that was firing early because he was doing keepy uppies while everybody else's head was up their arse anyway, because nobody else really knew what they were going to do there. And they've found something. But again, it's just about we had it there for a lot of the games in the season, and then we did something stupid. And we talked about that all the time, that we had to remove that side of it. Whether they can look at each other with a bit more confidence in the room, I mean, they've got to know each other a bit better. Whether there's a bit of people settling in. I mean, I think Tracy before had said that O'Hora has got a young family, so there's a settling down there. There's lots of players that have moved up. But it's just worked. We've got players who get it now, and in a league where one team are a million miles ahead of everybody else, another team at home are, but away are really vulnerable. Everybody else is much of a muchness. Make yourself hard to beat. So we've got that 5 that we can put in. I mean, Callum mentions the idea of sort of a low block, but we've got that solidity that we've applied to the back of the pitch. Triantis is playing better than I thought he would. I was glad to see him come back. I said that in the summer, but he's playing a level above what I thought we would get. I mean, which has been part of the difference. And delighted with Levitt. And I'm going to shut up now because you've got to go to Joe.
That's what I was joking about Stephen next, but it's Ian Torkel on the YouTube said, "JP, I love to see the sheep suffer." And Craig McCallum, evening guys, evening to you too, Craig. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to join in, just chuck your comments on there and we'll get to them. Stephen, same question to you. What was your takeaway from Saturday's win?
I think a wise man said in the phone in last week that he predicted a 2-0 Hibs win with a clean sheet. Can't remember who that was, but yeah, it's one of the ones where it's always nice to beat Aberdeen, and that's 7 out of 9 against them this season, which is pretty decent turnaround for a team that was going to potentially challenge for the league. So yeah, I'm like John. I didn't see the game. Only caught up with the highlights, and highlights made it look like it was a fairly even, scrappy game with not a huge amount of quality between the two sides, but we sort of just edged the quality. From the highlights as well, it didn't look like John Smith had anything of real difficulty to actually do in the game. So, yeah, delighted that we've made a win look so comfortable, to be honest, without the standard shaky arseness that we often exhibit in games. And to get the second goal in the game, it seems like that made the world of difference in the stadium and with the team as well. So delighted, and yeah, it's certainly something to build on.
And how are you feeling for the rest of the season now? It sounds like we're kind of coming into the home run. I think there's 11 or 12 games or something left to the split. How are you feeling about it?
I'm confident that we can keep the run going, although St Mirren has become our bogey team in the last few years, especially Easter Road. We seem to really, really struggle against them at Easter Road, and obviously we got parked in the first game of the season as well. I'll be honest, Matty, I'm not as confident now after the closing of the transfer window. I don't think it was the greatest window that we could have had. If I was to think of a word or words for it, it'd probably be disappointed and slightly apprehensive. When you look at the likes of Aberdeen and Hearts, especially that have strengthened, and actually in Hearts' case, and I think Callum mentioned the form table, Hearts are, since the Derby, Hearts are in excellent form, and I think one of their signings has scored 2 or 3 goals since they signed them in January as well. So I think the windows for me maybe have a missed opportunity to really, really build on momentum that we're gathering. And I watched Malky's interview earlier today. I'm glad he's got a theory for the madness that I think is the window of letting so many players go and only bringing one in to replace what's left. So I think the window's potentially an opportunity missed to really, really galvanise the position of relative strength that we have. And the fact that our position, even Dundee United, I don't think they've done a huge amount of business, but they've signed Alan Campbell, who's quite a good player at this level. So my slight worry is that with the table being so tight, if we lose a game and start to maybe slip, whilst we're close to 3rd and 4th, we're not really that far off 9th, 10th and 11th either. So I am a wee bit worried especially with other teams around us that have had a far better window than we have, in my opinion.
On the window, do you take some comfort in the fact that we never lost any of our key players? You know, the ones that we like, they were talked about. So Yuan, Rocky. I think there was a bid in for Miller at one point as well. Like we could have lost players that we didn't. Is that a plus, or is that still not quite enough to turn into a good window?
It's definitely a plus, because you certainly don't want to lose your better players, especially towards the end of the window, if clearly there's been nothing identified to either come in general or as potential replacements. It's a funny one, because I know there's going to be this massive rebuild in the summer, and I appreciate that they maybe didn't want to bring in players and give them false hope that they might sign longer term. But at the same time, you know, I think is Rocky not out of contract at the end of the season, and down bids potentially of 6 figures. I don't know if that's maybe a wee bit short-sighted when you've got Ekpateta to come back, but then I appreciate that you can't have the squad. It's an already thin squad, in my opinion, in terms of real depth and quality. I guess you can't let players go if you don't have anybody lined up. But it does make me question what Garvin Stewart's done since he came in. If I think Mana was already identified by the club before he came in. So what's this guy been doing for 6-7 weeks ahead of a window? Is it all geared for the summer? That's what it looks like to me. It's almost like, even though we've got a real chance to get 3rd and 4th in European football in a league that, in all honesty, 3rd down, I think the league is pretty poor, to be honest, and include ourselves in that. Poor is maybe not the best word. It's very, very even. And if you look at the last couple of seasons, Hearts had that run 2 years ago where they got 3rd. In fact, last season where they got 3rd on about a 13 or 14 game run. Aberdeen did it the previous season under Robson. Here we are on a 10-game undefeated run, and we're sitting in 5th. And it just seems like a bit of a missed opportunity, if you ask me.
It's an interesting one. I know you mentioned there about the focus for the summer, and I think that came across in Malky's interview as well. And I know definitely from the club point of view, there is a proper focus on a big rebuild in the summer, and I think that might have influenced the thing. I think we spoke about it on Extra Time on Monday. I think there's also an element, perhaps the Gordon family having their fingers burnt with the speculate to accumulate approach over the last few years, that every time they speculated, they've decumulated. Like, it's got worse. So I wonder if they kind of got to this point and just thought, we're not having another January window where we're chucking money at it. Although we do seem to have spent money on Manny. So, you know, maybe that's maybe I'm contradicting myself. What do you make of Manny, Stephen? You got much of a view on him?
We discussed it last week. I think the guy's obviously got a fairly good upbringing in terms of the early part of his career. Certainly looking forward to seeing him in the team. How he gets into the team right now with, I think that was at the 3rd game in a row, Gray went unchanged. So, and you know, if you've got him and Joe sitting waiting to come into the team, it certainly it'll keep Levitt and Campbell on their toes. So yeah, the highlight reel last week that we discussed, I'm looking forward to seeing him, but I've fallen foul of that in the past as well.
Aye. It was good interview that I had on Hibs TVs, but they asked him what can the fans expect for you? And he just says quality. That's it. They didn't expand on it, just quality. I love that wee bit of confidence. John, you had your hand up there. Were you wanting to come in, or are you okay? No, okay, right. Joe, I'm going to bring you in. You sat patiently, you probably heard all the praise for Levitt, and you're thinking, how can I add to it? What did you make of Saturday?
Well, can I say, first of all, I'm glad Ian's caught us up at long last regarding Levitt. And John, of course.
Sorry, I have been a Levitt fan since you said that. I was ecstatic. Yeah.
I know. But joking aside, can I say that I think our captain's going to struggle to get into the team. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got the one player that was signed, you know, plays left-sided midfield from what I've read about him. You don't change a winning team, and I don't see any reason why Hibs should change a winning team other than possibly bringing in Bowie for Gale.
And what would you do? Like, if you were David Gray, Joe, what would your decision be on it?
Well, I'd bring in Bowie for Gale because obviously the laddie's got loads of potential, and we paid a lot of money for him and waited for him. Whereas Gale, he's largely on the way out. He's a very quality player, but you know, he's kicking on a bit. He'd be 35 later on this year, I think. So you've got to back. Bowie. But I wouldn't change much of the rest of the team. I mean, regarding our captain getting back into the side, if you remember, Paul Hanlon was the club captain, but he often didn't play in the team last season. It could be that Joe's got to suffer the same fate, because not only has he got Triantis and Levitt playing well in midfield, but there's this new boy that we bought in unknown quantity. But the fact that Hibs have given him a number 8 shirt would suggest that he's going to be a starter. The only person we brought in the transfer window. So, but I'm really positive. I think Hibs can beat St Mirren. I think we can get a point against Celtic at least. And I think we can go up the table. My big fear is the banana skin, which is coming on tomorrow. Ayr United in the Cup, they're doing really, really well this season, right at the top of the championship. Okay, Hibs are doing well, but it's the Cup. So notwithstanding that and putting it aside, I think Hibs have a very, very good chance of being third this season.
What did you make of the transfer window, Joe? Like we had one come in, we let a few go.
Well, yeah, I think it was a positive transfer window, because rather than bringing in crap, has been said by one of the previous speakers, and chancing it, and then bear in mind we've got 5 players coming into the team that haven't either been unavailable or injured or whatever, plus the new boy. Having a tight squad's not necessarily a bad thing. We need to be fairly lucky in not having too many injuries, obviously. But I think it was probably the wise thing to do. And that will keep the winning squad tight. I'm old enough to remember, and Ian will be old enough to remember, Hibs destroyed a great team in 1973 by buying a player called Joe Harper from Aberdeen. And, I think we're doing okay with the squad at the moment. And then wait till the summer.
How important do you think that is? Malky Mackay talked about it, but not wanting to disrupt the sort of the culture that's within the team at the moment. Ian mentioned it earlier on about the senior players demanding standards. We talked about Joe Neal cancelling the Christmas night out, and
yes,
if you've seen Nicky Cadden's stuff on the pre-match stuff today, he talks about the spirit in the team, and they're all obviously fighting for the badge. There is a risk if you bring in too many players that it disrupts that. Do you think it's sensible to keep it as it is?
I think it's entirely sensible to keep it as it is, because with the players coming back, you didn't need to buy a lot of players. I disagree with the previous speaker who said we could have done more than just buy one player, because with these players coming back, it's almost like having 4 or 5 new players without having to spend the money, if you know what I mean.
And the players that went, Joe, was there anybody there you were sad to see go? So we had Amos and Levitt and Jake Doyle-Hayes, and obviously Josh Landers went down to West Ham as well.
Other than possibly Landers, none of them are a loss, to be honest with you, in my view. None of them are a great loss. And we've got these great players coming back from injury. And when Nick Pateta comes back, it's going to be interesting to see if Rocky keeps his place, for instance. And Rocky's been doing great. So happy problems with the squad we've got without bringing in too many more players at this moment in time. And as you've said, and the other guys have said, they've got this winning bond between them all now, which is something that you can't buy.
There was talk a bid in for Rocky from, I think, an Egyptian team. Would you be tempted to sell, Joe?
If the money was right, yes, because Rocky won't be a starter come next season, because when we get the end of season shake up and proper money being spent, I think there's room for you need a top goalkeeper, top centre half, top central midfielder, and top centre forward, the spine of the team. The spine of the team has got to be solid. And if you look back to when Graham Souness was managing Rangers all those years ago, he brought the spine of the English international team to Ibrox, English goalie, the English centre half, Stephen in midfield, and Mark Hateley up front. To get that spine right, it's all got to be quality. So Hibs will need to spend in the close season. But with what we've got just now, because let's face it, other than Celtic, it's a crap league. There's no reason why this squad can't finish third, in my view.
And then we'll get ourselves into contention for it. John, you've got your hand up. I'll bring him.
It was just saying, I think that the January window, the players that left, I think, were good business. So you count on Jake Doyle-Hayes, McCurdy, and Amos going later on. Good luck to, I've forgotten his name, the young laddie that scored and got himself a contract with West Ham. I mean, the outs aren't a concern. I think, I had a quick look. A couple of years ago, we brought in Harry Clark, who had a positive impact on the rest of the season. Season after that, we brought in Egan Riley, who had equally the same impact, and we brought in my leader last year. I mean, that puts a big emphasis on what Manny's going to do for the rest of the season. I think that we had the opportunity, and it's trying to understand where the ambitions of the club are at the moment. Again, lots of stuff going around on message boards, in terms of what's going to be published at the beginning of March. And it's just that challenge that's coming in. We have a director of football who's saying that we have to respect the money that the owners have put in. Which that was him saying that's not a fan bringing it up. So I think that the doubt that we can have in it is that the ambition may have been curtailed by budget. Manny looks like I don't know how these recruitment systems work, but I'd imagine pretty much every scouting system tells you who's out of contract at the end of the year. What position they play and what foot they kick with. So to find a left-footed midfielder who scores goals, who's out of contract at the end of the season, isn't going to take the fanciest computer system in the world. So Hibs should have been identifying a player like Manny from the league he's coming from, irrespective of what software we're doing, and we should have known about him a year ago. Could he have been somebody we're looking at pre-contract in the summer and they've just got the deal over the line? Yes. So it'd be interesting to get a bit more detail as to what's actually changed in terms of the work. Certainly listening to the work that's you put the up on the Patreon, you put the interview up with what's his name from Black Knight,
Bill Foley.
Bill Foley. And they were talking about scouting. So you have your list, but actually there's a detailed scouting report that goes with it. It's eyes on and stuff like this. So that's maybe the change that's happening. But I think my concern with the transfer window is probably more about we have 4 centre halves. We're playing 3 of them, and one of them's injured. And his injury, he was meant to be coming back at the beginning of February. Then it's the middle of February, and that's probably the end of February.
Yeah.
So if he's going to have been out for 3 months, he's then going to come back on the Bowie perspective. And the thing is, a forward's easier to bring back. The Joe Newell answer, Joe Newell will be Levitt's replacement at 65 minutes. You've got 5 subs. You're going to put subs on in your dynamic areas of the pitch. If you're coming back as a centre back, you're going to get 5 minutes at the end. You're not going to get the games to get back up to speed. So we're only 1 injury away from having Miller at right centre back. And again, it's not been a disaster, and it might work in the league. That's where I sort of have that query. I'd expected us maybe to look a bit more at the goalkeeping department, because Bursick was brought out because he was making too many mistakes. Now, whether he's shown more in training and they're happy that he's now a decent reserve, but there seemed to have been an opportunity to move him on. But again, the question is, without joining the dots up, it's listening to Malky Mackay, it's seeing a lack of activity, it's seeing players moving off the books, and it's hearing what the mood music in the background seems to be, and just wondering whether actually budget curtailed the ambition.
Can I quickly come in here, Matty?
You come in and I'll get Ian. He's got his hand up, so I'll come at Ian after you, Joe, and you go.
I think the best piece of transfer business that happened with Hibs was a piece of transfer business that wasn't done. In other words, keeping Ellie Ewan. I think that's colossal with what's to come with the rest of the season.
It's an important one, definitely.
Can you imagine a front 2 Ellie Ewan and Bowie? That could be really exciting and dynamic.
Ian, you want to come in?
I just wanted to pick up on what both Stephen said and other John said there about Garvin Stewart. I thought, and thanks very much for, as John said, for posting the Bill Foley interview. I found that really interesting. And it was very interesting because he talked a lot in detail about transfers. It was almost like as you said, I get involved in the terms and conditions for every player, which seems very strange to go into that level of detail. But it's very interesting. He talked extensively about transfers, but in no time did he even mention Garvin Stewart, which I found strange. He didn't actually, and he sounded like he was already in a lot of detail. But just in terms of the Malky interview kind of was also interesting because Malky was using words like strategy and plan, and which stung me. And he was actually, it looked like he had actually been learning from the Black Knights personnel. I think you said on Extra Time, or Colin said on Extra Time that that we're effectively the strategy sounds like exactly the way it was when Leanne was there. In terms of having a backup for a backup. I thought that in general, though, the Foley interview I found it very interesting. He sounded exactly like what we needed for Hibs. And what I thought we would get when they got involved, when Black Knights got involved, I found it particularly interesting that Bournemouth want to get to Hibs stadium size. So Bill Foley said, our stadium's only 11,000 just now, and we'd like to expand it to get to and dig down below the current pitch to get to about 19,000. So they're actually trying to emulate us.
Fairness, Ian, is only Tynecastle because we're 20.
Yeah, I know, but we never seem to get to 20, do we? But yeah. Sorry, I just found it very interesting.
Do you think it's weird that my observation from it, and I'm keen to get your thoughts, is when you listen to Bill Foley talking, he seems to be very proud of the fact that Hibs are involved in his network, and he talks about the plans for Hibs. When Hibs talk about it, they never mention the Black Knights at all. It's like they pretend it's not happening. I just think that it's like there's a proper disconnect between the two. There, like, pick it up, and why do you think it might have been?
I think.
Do you not think? I'm sorry, you go in.
My view is it's definitely a cultural thing, because I spent a decade in the States, and I was very aware of the sort of entrepreneurial approach to sport. You've got to remember that teams like the Brooklyn Dodgers were sold off and became the LA Dodgers, and the San Francisco Giants were previously the New York Giants. So that's what happens. So when he creates an ice hockey team in Las Vegas, which is clearly a place where you get ice, and is successful, then it really worries me. The good. I mean, so in terms of him being the kind of guy we need, I think he is. But I wouldn't like to see this being pervasive in terms of the culture of the football club. There's got to be a balance between the sort of Donald Trump approach and the Joe Biden approach.
There's also a line of thinking that Garvin Stewart's work provided most value in perhaps stopping us signing players in January that we might have been lumbered with, but based on who we'd identified before. Now, I don't know if that is the case or not, but it was certainly a suggestion. I know, Stephen, when you asked what's he been doing, and it was somebody had raised that on Hibsnet. I can't remember who it was that posted it, and I thought that's actually a really kind of clever point, that is maybe what we didn't do that reflects the good work that he's done when you consider some of the players that we've signed over the last few years at this time of year. Jack,
just to take what business we did, everyone gets the tick. I mean, rather than looking at, you just said these are the transactions that we did during the transfer window. Everyone would get a tick. Aye,
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I mean it's early days on Manny. Like we don't know what he's going to be like, but certainly from his stats, looking at a couple of the that we're going to get
player profile, where he's coming from, type of player that he is. Yeah, it might not work out, but it feels like a good one to go for.
There's is it SofaScore or FotMob, the app you can get on your phone, and you can compare players, and they do this sort of radar type graphic, and Manny sits sort of slightly better than Joe Newell, but not quite as good as Callum McGregor, which is probably not a bad sign for where we are. Jack, I've not heard from you yet about the transfer window. What have you made of it all from Hibs' point of view?
I'm pretty happy with how the transfer window's going because, like my dad says, you're not going to really expect much in the January window because we need to trim the squad down because we've got too many players in there.
And do you think we addressed the areas that we needed to address?
Yeah, I think bringing in Manny, I think I might have spelled that wrong, but bringing him in's added a wee bit of quality, and I think David Gray's happy with what he's got.
Gray had talked a bit about finding, was it like that sort of magic or X factor or something, like I can't remember his exact words, but they were sort of saying towards the end of the window that's what we were looking to bring in. Obviously, we never brought anybody in right at the end of the window. Jack, do you think Gray would be a bit disappointed about that?
No, I don't think he's disappointed because if he's getting the players that he has playing good football, then I don't think there was really any need to bring anybody in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like my dad says, and I agree with him, the summer will be where you see the real rebuild under Garvin's shirt because I think that's what it is. It might be a disappointing January window, but the summer will be better. That's where you'll see the real rebuild with quality for where we need to build.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we've got enough in the team to push for third as it stands?
Yeah, they look, yeah.
Good. And in terms of the players that are out of contract, Jack, who would you be looking to make sure we keep?
The only one that I would keep would be Boyle. That's about it.
Just Boyle.
Yeah, just Boyle.
Fair enough. What about everybody else? Anybody else got designs on any of the players that we have now to make sure we don't let them go?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to lose Levitt or that.
I can't remember who's out of contract, to be honest. There's that many. I've kind of lost track of all the names, to be honest.
There's loads about. I think
Chris
key ones
Cadden
are
is one of them.
Chris Cadden, Rocky, Lewis Miller.
Cadden.
Aye, I think having the Cadden brothers works quite well. Just now, I think earlier on in the season, I'd suggested I probably would have rather kept Miller than Chris Cadden. I'd probably walk that opinion back now and change my mind on it. Right, we're at Ayr United on Friday, so tomorrow night's on live on the BBC. Ian, you're going through what sort of game are you expecting from it?
I'm going to go with whatever Stephen said because he got the result, the prediction right. But I think it's going to be very difficult. I think unless we score early, we'll struggle. I don't know. I'm very, very wary about tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to it. So I think they're going to throw everything at us. I think Whitaker and Brown will be. They've got their tactics. They'll have probably spent ages looking at the way we play, and I think they'll probably try and exploit what they see as vulnerabilities. So I think they'll play long balls. I didn't care anything about Ayr United apart from the fact that they're doing really well. I don't know if they've got big players up front or whatever. So, but I think it's going to be very difficult.
I think Jamie Murphy plays for them.
He does, he does. I saw that today.
Yeah.
That's got to work in our favour, surely. Touch wood. It's like the kiss of death. That as soon as the words came out of my mouth, there I was like, "Oh fuck, what have I said?" I take it back. Do we talk up teams like this? You know, when we go into to face them, it's just like bitter experience. So do you know what I mean? Like if we were going to, I don't know, like Motherwell, sort of mid-table Premiership team, we wouldn't be looking at it as a banana skin. We fancy our chances with it. Why do we think Ayr United in the Championship are going to be a tough game?
I'll tell you why. They're at the top of the Championship. They're at home. It's their cup final.
Yep.
I think it'll be a 2-2 draw and Hibs will get through extra time. That's what my prediction is. Sorry, I'm coming ahead of where I should have.
No, you're all right. You're all right. We're not far off full time anyway. Stephen, what about you? How do you see it going?
I was actually at the previous round game that they had against Broxburn. Father-in-law, he's a Broxburn fan, and the Jambo should add as well. And in terms of the scouting mission that I didn't realise I was on that day, I've got a mixture of experienced players. Devlin plays for them as well. You remember he was in the books for about 6 months.
Aye.
Jamie Murphy. They've got a mixture of decent Premiership ex-pro or ex-Premiership pros, and they've got a couple of decent Championship level players like Oakley. I think George Oakley plays for them as well. A couple of decent young players as well. So it will definitely be a tough game. The the fact that they've managed to claw back that lead that Falkirk have had in the Championship suggests that they're a decent side as well. I'm not sure how the pitch will be. It will be a raucous atmosphere. I think we're taking down 3,000 plus. I think they've got 3,000 or 4,000 as well. But I seem to remember in the last 4 or 5 years we've faced the team top of the Championship twice. I think under Jack Ross we had Dundee United, put them out in a replay, and I think we had Broth when they were flying high at the top of the Championship, dispatched them relatively comfortably. So I think we a bit like Callum said last week, go in with the siege mentality. We're the Premiership team. Go down and show them why we're the Premiership team. Don't give them the respect that they deserve, but no more than that, and just try and have the game won as soon as possible, and to try and avoid the potential of a banana skin. But it will definitely be a difficult game, absolutely.
Aye. I fancy to be tough, but that was kind of what I was driving at. That sort of give them the respect that they due, but don't talk them up into like it's so Celtic. We're going to play like we should go with confidence. John, are you going through?
Yep, just trying to work out what time the bus leaves from the Oak Ridge. See there, my laddie was at the Broxburn game, the last one. Came back with pink trainers because somebody dropped a pyro on the ground and he didn't notice.
Oh, John, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
He was in the shed. No, I think that it's going to be brilliant. As I say, the last time I was through there was when McGinn hit his 40-yarder. And I was up on the terracing on the far side. I'm in behind the goals. I'm expecting a really good atmosphere in the ground. I'm expecting it to be 100 miles an hour for the first half hour. And it's just going to be about who can get their heads. I mean, listen to the Observer thing earlier on with Liam, journalists from the Ayrshire area saying they've moved to a 3-5-2, pretty much the same formation that we've moved to. That means that there's spaces in the sides. I mean, so it's wing back against wing back. We've got to make sure that our defenders win the balls in the air. To start with, yes, if you can be pretty, but if not, just turn them. I mean, and just get the goals. I mean, we went up to Inverness last year, felt like a bit of it's their cup final. It's a free swing for them. It's a ground that we haven't fancied in the past. And we put a really nice controlled performance on. But again, goals were on the break. Again, to some extent, they came onto us. I mean, Boyle's goal in sort of the second half, sort of bursting through. So no, yeah, I'm hoping for a repeat of that in a 3-1. But no, I think give them the respect, but actually, you're the Premiership team. Every one of our players would get in their team.
Okay, so you said 3-1. Joe, you had 2-2 with Hibs going through an extra time. Stephen, did you say a score?
I didn't. Cup's all about progression. I've not settled on a score yet, but I'll put Hibs to go through. I won't reveal if it's in 90 or if it's in 120 or penalties. Trigger warning as well, lads.
He knows that Paddy Power are listening in, and they know that the odds will crash on it if he says anything.
I can still remember going out under Calderwood about 12, 13 years ago. So yeah, just get through the tie. Hibs by 1 goal. That's what I'll go my.
This is the thing. The BBC obviously see it as a potential upset, so it's why they've got it on the telly, isn't it? So we need to kind of go and show that we're not going to let them sort of get what they're after. Jack, how do you see it going, and what do you think the score will be?
My score prediction will be 3-1 Hibs. That's what I'm going with, but it'll not be an easy game. Scott Brown's done a good job at Ayr United.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Scott Brown at the minute because when he took over at Ayr United, he done well, saving them, keeping them up in the Championship, and then now he's got them top of the league this season. So they'll be ready for this game. Yeah.
Do you think they'll be on the radar as potential next Hibs management team, Brown and Whittaker?
Well, early doors, yeah, but it could happen at some point.
Some point now, after Greg gets his job at Barca or whatever, after winning everything with Hibs. Ian, last word to you then. How's the game going to go, and what's the score going to be?
I didn't care. Whatever Steve says. I just like to mention the Sky Sports Cup final, Rangers at Fir Park. I've got my ticket for March the 22nd. Now, I assume that's an international break, but just listening to the Bill Foley interview, it just occurred to me, if that's an international break, we should have a Black Knights coaching clinic where all the coaches from all the Black Knights teams come together. where the guy Andoria Olasanya, him, he could run a coaching clinic, and we could go and learn. But I've not got a clue about Ayr United. I've not got a clue.
Fair dues, right? We'll take that. We will have our preview show tomorrow. We're on about 4 o'clock-ish. Maybe Colin and John, if you want to submit a team to that, you can submit it on Blue Sky, where you'll find us, or you can email longbangers@gmail.com, and we'll include the team in our preview show. So we'll see you there. We'll be live on YouTube, and then watch out for our tweet over the weekend for talking points after the game tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and we will see you all next time.